All right, welcome back to Problem Solver Politics. I am your host, Carton Ellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
And we've all tried the fun game Florida Man, where you just type into Google Florida Man and your birthday, and an amazing news article comes up. I think with mine, it was like Florida Man kills alligator and then, abuses his wife over an argument about a bag of Doritos or something like that. It was super crazy. But it emphasizes the coolness that is Florida, because Florida going to do what Florida going to do no matter what the rest of us think. And an epic case of Florida Man has been developing around our mutual challenge we're all sharing right now just over the past 24 hours. And it's a pretty interesting thing to watch. So, Cody, can you please tell everybody what's going on down in Broward County? Actually, this time it's not Broward, but keep going.
Well, I guess the state of Florida. Well, I guess we'll go through a couple things here I thought was interesting. Normally, I don't talk about individual states too much, but Florida is an interesting state, definitely want to talk about. So a lot of you guys probably saw this story going around the last few days. There was a big rush of mostly, I guess you would call them Zoomers, kind of Gen Z types. A lot of them were saying, just turned 21. I'm like, wow, you're young kids. Anyway, went to Florida, and they hung out in Florida in the beaches and partied, and it was true scrutiny from a lot of people, having thousands of people gather like this. And now I believe multiple of them have tested positive for coronavirus, and we've actually seen one of the men write a very long, heartfelt apology on Instagram about it. The images were pretty. I think it's this guy. Yeah, it's this guy. I have to admit, this video is like a minute or two long, and it's got clips from like 6 or 7 people on it. I only watched the first 10 seconds when it's this guy. It's the only one I've seen, so I imagine he did get all the heat.
Yeah.
That's just a golden. I just want to take a second to read the quote, because again, this guy is from Ohio. I'm not going to clown Florida. That's that quote. If I get corona, I get corona. At the end of the day, I'm not going to let it stop me from partying. Cheers to you, man. Anyway,
this man is dedicated to his craft.
Dedicated
to his craft.
Amidst all of this, there's been a lot of scrutiny placed on the governor of Florida. I believe with one. I think a Florida legislator referring to this as the dumbest S ever. DeSantis takes heat with the governor of Florida as he goes his own way on coronavirus. I really wish "goes his own way" was in quotes, because I really wish he said that we are going our own way on this one. Because amid calls for lockdowns,
then they can have the theme song too. If you go your own way, when they're like, in the background talking legislation.
I was thinking the same thing myself. You beat me to it. But anyway, there's been a lot of calls for criticisms, calls for a larger lockdown across the state. Now, the most recent thing I can pull up, this is from, mind you, I've never used clickorlando.com before, but according to this, Florida coronavirus cases rise above 1,400. State remains open amid calls for lockdown, it's interesting. As of Tuesday morning, 1,412 people in the state have the respiratory illness, according to the latest numbers from the Florida's Department of Health. Those numbers include residents and visitors. 82 visitors diagnosed while in Florida. I wonder why there's 82 visitors diagnosed with coronavirus in Florida. I wonder if it's anything to do with the thousands of people. Now, I'll give them a little credit. After everybody left after the weekend, they did close the beaches. So once everyone was gone, they did say, hey,
once they made that money.
And they have, I believe they have tightened up restrictions.
Well, it was just like LA County.
Into the state from New York and California.
Well, it was just like LA County, if you remember, right after the polls closed. Remember? It was like as soon as the poll closed, they're like, boom. Now it's locked down.
It is worth noting that I do believe Governor DeSantis did write a letter to President Trump asking to make Florida a emergency area to get additional relief. However, this is the thing that's very interesting to me, is the sense that, and I don't know where it comes from. All I know is every time I've ever looked into Florida or talked to anyone, there's a very strong sense of people in Florida, I guess, going their own way, so just doing things a certain way and doing them that way. But it is a little bit crazy to me that the governor is asking to have the state just consider the disaster for increased emergency relief, but he's not willing to impose something similar to what we've seen in states like New York and California. I don't know, because it's very bizarre, and we've seen that, again, going back to this article, fellow lawmakers calling out of his cure can't be worse than the disease approach has put the Republican governor under a glaring spotlight locally and nationally as case of the virus in Florida surged past 1,400. It's a philosophy that aligns DeSantis with other conservatives, including President Donald Trump and Florida House Speaker Jose Olivia Oliva, I can pronounce every name wrong, a Republican with a strong libertarian bent. Thank you for that. I'm glad I know he's libertarian as well.
Yeah.
What's fascinating to me, though, is that, like, in a way, isn't he not on board with Trump? Because even Trump is recommending stronger things than what we're seeing out of Florida. Like, I don't think even Trump's like, nah, I think everyone should go party in spring break still. That's fine. I don't even think he's saying that. So, but here's what, and they said DeSantis has only grown more defiant on Monday. Instead of buckling to political pressure to issue a shelter-in-place order, he said he would restrict visitors coming into the state from coronavirus hotspots, including New York. And he's now literally ignoring pleas from Florida Democrats to be more aggressive. And they have nearly 20 governors across the state have issued some form of stay-at-home order. It is, we're talking about different countries here, but it's interesting. You look at, like, and I get it, Florida, and I think that's the reason why. Florida isn't California and Florida isn't New York. They're not going to implement these kind of things. But it's just so crazy to see people across the country think, what are you doing? I mean, this is crazy. Why are you not implementing it? Because, I mean, here's the thing, too. It's like we started in California, on last Thursday? I think New York a little bit before that. I mean, this notion that it's like, I don't know, like this radical thing no one's doing. It's like you're like maybe a few days behind and you could be like, it's the kind of thing you could implement and then take away 48 hours apart. It is like a massive, you can just be, okay, everyone stay at home. You know what? We tried that. No, we don't need it. It just seems to me so goofy to not even, I don't know, not to humor it, but he is asking for emergency aid from the government as things are getting bad in the state. I don't know, just an interesting time to look at Florida again.
Well, I don't know if you remember, but it was a very tight race between DeSantis and I believe it was Andrew Gilliam was his name, the guy that we just found in a hotel room. You know what I'm saying? And the pics of that are actually quite hilarious. But you can throw this up on the screen if you get it in Discord for a second, Cody. DeSantis' slogan was veteran, prosecutor, and leader. Well, it wasn't his slogan, but that's what was on a lot of his podium stands and a lot of his, yard signs and everything like that. And I think this is really the time to step up as leader. And I understand this idea that, okay, you don't want to have a punishment that outweighs a crime. You don't want to have a vaccine that's worse than disease. And I understand if you're wanting to look at your people in a holistic manner. There's lots of data that shows the crash of 2008 caused anywhere between 50,000 to 100,000 suicides, most people believe. So if you're caring about your people and their longevity and so on and so forth, a complete and total shutdown may not be the answer, but also being flippant about it, you know what I'm saying, and not doing anything is also a horrible thing on the other end of the spectrum. So I really think that it really behooves him now to just step up and figure out exactly what tack he's going to take and stick with it. Because if you're waiting for the media to figure it out for you through social pressure, it just makes you look weak and or crazy. And neither one of those are good. Weak or crazy is not what we want and is the opposite of veteran, prosecutor, and leader. So I'm not here to necessarily throw any one of these ideas under the bus because I see how there could be value in a counterfactual. There could be value in a state saying, hey, we're going to take a different tack and let's see how the data shows up in a week or two or whatever. Like, I'm all about counterfactuals as long as they're responsible. I got a states' rights
question for you in a second, though.
But yeah, hit it. Just hit it right away.
Well, here's the thing. You're talking about that. This is where, because I'm a huge states' rights guy. I definitely believe that states. Yeah. I believe we fought a very long, bloody war for states' rights. But what's fascinating is, let's say, fine, you go for the counterfactual there, and it was just a really bad bet.
A disaster.
And Florida becomes this unmitigated disaster, and there's nothing we could really do about it. And other states across the country start suffering because of the aid the government that just has to focus on Florida. Florida got so out of, again, hypothetical, but what if in going your own way, things get so bad and so out of hand, not only is the federal government being forced to step in, it's detracting from what the federal government can aid to other states that perhaps didn't try to go for the counterfactual and aren't currently in the problem you're in. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there is, while I believe states have the right to say, look, if county, and because again, in Florida, individual counties and cities are basically
well, let me answer your.
There has been, just want to give one last defense, there has been statewide closures of bars and gyms in the state of Florida. The only difference is there hasn't been, kind of like in LA County, we got our LA County lockdown, and then it came down.
And where we got
the
X's when you go to Home Depot where you're supposed to stand in line that are 6 feet apart.
The state came down order a little bit after. They're waiting on the state order in Florida is what's happening. But again, I want to say, at some point, is it not for the government to step in and say, look, we can't let this get so bad we can't help others?
Okay, I believe so, yes, as long as it was in concordance with the spirit of the Pauci Comitatus Act and everything like that. But let me just tell you this. The only reason why I would be okay with one counterfactual, as long as I viewed it as even relatively responsible, is because the idea would be similar to, I hate to quote this, but kind of like World War Z, where they had the seventh man that always, explored the one option that all the other six didn't, is the idea would be that if the counterfactual did end up going badly, the 6 out of 7 that didn't take that tack would then have the resources in order to help that 7.
How fortunate. How fortunate is it for the people who went for we're just going to try things around.
Yeah,
how fortunate is it for the other people prepared? That's what I mean, dude. At a certain point, here's the kind of thing where it's like, yes, we're not going to let Florida fall off the boat, but people don't forget about that, man. People aren't going to just be like, oh yeah, remember when we kind of had to scrape everything together to save Florida because they didn't want to harm their something, I don't know, their valuable industries.
No, that would be irresponsible. That would be irresponsible to have it be laissez-faire. I think you're, like I said, as long as the counterfactual were responsible, a diversity of data is good, because then you can actually know what works. Because just like Cuomo said today, he said there was no art in how I shut everything down. And he was even talking about how, maybe it wasn't a good idea to have completely shut this down when we could have done a partial. We've never really dealt with this before. And I think everybody, I do believe that on both sides of the aisle, except for some really cynical people, except for the Schumers and the Pelosi's of this world, I think by and large, Governor Cuomo's trying his best. Yeah. And I believe Gavin Newsom, as much as I cannot stand that man 99 out of 100 days, I do believe when I see the work ethic he's doing and the press conferences that he's having, that he is doing his best for his people. And their approaches may be different, but like Thomas Jefferson said, out of the clamor of many voices will the truth be established. And I'm okay with counterfactuals as long as they're responsible. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, but I guess I would just question how responsible it is to perhaps let I agree with you. Perhaps let a virus spread throughout your community.
No, I agree with that.
For no real reason. I will say one last thing before I wrap up on this. I do think this situation because one thing I will say too, it's big that I'm seeing of this. You brought up Governors Cuomo and Gavin Newsom, especially Governor Cuomo though over there in New York. It almost feels like you get a glimpse into how awful and the level of stooge you have to be to play ball to become governor of New York. Right now, you could tell he doesn't care about what the donors think. He's trying to save people's lives in his state. It's crazy seeing someone actually do their job for once. I'm like, wow, if this is what Andrew Cuomo was always like, I'd probably like him more.
He may not be so bad,
but unfortunately,
having phone conversations with Trump where they actually get things done.
I don't even care about that. You could see in him he's passionate and he really cares about the lives of the people underneath him.
Yeah.
It's sad you don't see that a lot, but it's just, I don't know. It kind of shows you the level of soulless stooge you must be in order for him to let you go to those positions.
Well, I like what you said the other day.
Him just do his job. I'm like, wow, he actually cares about these people. He actually really wants to save people's lives. He's doing what I always believe in. In times of crisis, overreach and claw back. It's easier to do it that way than go, we could have saved all those people, but we just didn't think it was necessary. It's easier to say
overreach and claw back. Yeah. That's actually a good phrase.
It's always simple. You know what? With this aid thing, you don't want billionaires doing it. Just tax them at the end of the year. Just in 2021, they have to give it back if they make too much money. Is that I don't say it's that simple, but you see what I mean? That is a path you can go down. It exists. It's an option. This notion that if you overreach a little bit and you give too much to too many people who maybe don't need it at the beginning, that it's just non-starter. It's you can take those things back. You can move things back there.
Yeah.
You could do things like
this isn't written in stone.
Yes, you could implement a lockdown and then go, you know what? Looking at things, I don't think we need it. And you could claw it back.
Yeah.
and you can repeal it. And we're not seeing that from a lot of places. And we're seeing it in some places. We're seeing it, and I think that's the way to go. I mean, it's if the boat's sinking, I think that's the only hole. I don't want to go crazy and patch other things. I think patch everything and then go, okay, you know what? We went a little crazy there. That's better than, being in the water like, God, I wish we had thought of that. But hey, maybe we wanted to play it safe. I don't know. It always feels goofy to me. It's saving it for what? Saving Is Florida gonna pull the entire United States out of a global Is Florida gonna pull the globe out of a recession because they didn't lock down for 2 weeks? No, I don't think that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, dude, Florida is such a wild place, man. And I speak with love about Florida because my family, a large portion of it at least, does come from unincorporated Broward County. Yeah, our favorite county, with the crazy lady with the Albert Einstein hair who always messes up all their elections.
Well, it's like a real life Hazard County, right? Wasn't that, that what it was? Dukes of Hazzard and Hazard. That's what it is.
It's like a real life Hazard County. Oh, that's too funny. That's too funny. So anyway, I've got anything else you want to say?
No, that's it.
You're good.
I just think it is. Hold on, I do, because I didn't want to wrap it up with the actual thing to play to the video. I do think that was a really interesting time to look at how much autonomy and freedom states truly get when they come to these things. Because, it looks like if he wants to, DeSantis can say, yeah, no, like, if counties want to shut down, they can. I'm not shutting down my state. However, the federal government, we're going to see when he asks for aid, as he did this morning, the federal government can say, well, I mean, you're selling us that things are really bad, but your actions are telling us a different story. What's actually going on here? Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see. I mean, is Florida really going to fight for its economy over its people? Is that really what's going to happen? Here's the thing. Even if you can argue they don't need to implement these lockdowns for the sake of the population, what if they do need to implement something to prove to the federal government they're taking it serious enough to get the aid they do actually need? At a certain point, you have to ask, what are you saving for what? I don't know.
Well, also, I would, and by the way, I'm just spitballing here. Tell me if you think that there's something crazy in this. But at this point, I almost feel like I want to get Google involved. Only in this sense.
Well, they are.
You can't, but you can't tell me that there's not an algorithm that we couldn't whip up overnight that, puts all the data in on age, pre-existing conditions, geographic location, income, so on and so forth, that doesn't relatively accurately predict an individual person's susceptibility rating to a virus. You know what I'm saying?
Because it doesn't work that way.
And no, I'm not saying it doesn't work that way, but like, why don't we in the future try and develop an algorithm? And it sounds a little bit like that one Galaga movie or Galactica movie with where they wanted to go to the not to the moon, they wanted to go to that other planet. You love the movie. It's got the guy who is
Gattaca? No,
Gattaca. Is it Gattaca?
You know what? You said the word so many times they have no meaning. I can't tell you anymore.
Yeah, but you know what movie I'm talking about,
Ethan
right?
Hawke,
with Ethan Hawke. That's what I was looking for. It almost sounds like Gattaca, but like it almost makes me feel like, can we make an algorithm of who's susceptible, who would most likely survive this thing, figure out who we quarantine and who we don't? It's Gattaca. That was it. Yes.
But here's the thing. It doesn't... we were talking about before this. I literally just read a study that would say the numbers show smokers have a lower chance of getting it than non-smokers. Do you really believe that right now? Because if you plug those numbers into the algorithm, that's what it'll tell you. That's what those people did. They plugged the numbers into their algorithm and what it told them, and they were just drawing wild conclusions like, well, maybe it kills off a receptor the virus needs. It doesn't make any... They literally just looked at a population of people in China, and they said this. Well, X amount of people in China smoke cigarettes. So you'd imagine X amount of people sick would probably also smoke cigarettes. Why is it when we're in the hospital for these dire cases, only a certain percentage of people are sick? Now, here's the thing. It could always be, there's that great...
was it the tobacco company that sponsored that study like they did in the 90s?
It's the survivorship bias thing as well, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, because maybe the people that smoke are like absolutely wrecked by coronavirus and have like, it's not coronavirus anymore. It's just like serious lung issues and you don't even put them in the same category. You know, it's sometimes we don't see them for other reasons than they're fine. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not just that they're okay. And I guess these smokers are just sitting on their patio going through packs a day and it's keeping them alive. I don't think that's the case, but I think that's just why I think algorithmic stuff's difficult, because sometimes the algorithm it'll tell you something like that until it gets the rest of the data to tell you something else. That's why.
All right. So anyway, let us know what you guys think. Let's continue the conversation in all of the comments. If you can join the channel, it's an inexpensive way to make sure you keep these videos coming at you without corporate sponsorship. Also hang out for our live streams. And make sure that you follow us on Twitter at PSP Radio 1. This is Problem Solver Politics. We'll see you guys in the next video.